Commander Veltar walked slowly around the giant metal room. His 6 arms moved in smooth patterns as he talked to the new students. The room was huge, with bright lights shining down on rows of flying machines that looked like small spaceships. These were not real spaceships, but simulators that felt just as real when you sat inside them. "Listen carefully," Veltar said in his deep voice. The small device on his neck changed his alien language into words the students could understand. "This is the most important test you will ever take." 30 young beings from different planets sat in front of him. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few looked like walking crystals. They all wanted the same thing, to become pilots for the Galactic Federation. Only the best would pass this test. Veltar pointed with one of his long arms toward the simulators. "These machines will test everything you know about flying. They will push you harder than any real battle you might face in space." A student with blue skin raised her hand. "How many times can we try, sir?" 3 attempts, Veltar answered. "Every student gets 3 chances to pass. This has been the rule for over 200 years. The blue-skinned student looked worried. "What if we fail all 3 times? Veltar's eyes, which looked like small suns, became dim. "Then you go home. You find another job. Flying for the Federation is not for everyone." The room became very quiet. Everyone knew someone who had failed this test. It was famous across the galaxy for being almost impossible to beat. "Let me tell you about this simulator," Veltar continued. He pressed a button on the wall, and the room filled with moving pictures that showed what the test looked like inside. "You will fly through fields of floating rocks. Each rock can destroy your ship if you hit it. You must dodge them while enemies shoot at you." The pictures showed small spaceships trying to fly between huge spinning rocks. Most of the ships exploded in bright flashes of light. "You will face 5 enemy ships that fight like real Federation enemies. They are smart. They will try to trick you. They will work together to destroy you." More pictures showed battles where multiple ships attacked one pilot from different directions. "And finally," Veltar said, his voice becoming deeper, "you must complete 3 rescue missions while everything around you is falling apart." The students watched as the pictures showed ships trying to save people from exploding space stations while dodging laser fire and chunks of metal. A tall student with green scales spoke up. "What score do we need to pass?" 750 points, Veltar replied. "Perfect score is 1,000 points. In my 40 years of teaching, only 12 students have ever achieved perfect scores. None of them were on their first attempt." The students looked at each other with worried faces. 750 points seemed impossible. "Most students fail their first attempt," Veltar explained. "This is normal. Expected. The first time teaches you what to expect. The second time you do better. By the third time, most students can pass if they have the skill." He walked over to a big screen on the wall that showed numbers and charts. "Students from Centauri usually pass on their second try. They are naturally good at flying fast. Students from Corvanus need all 3 tries because they think too much about each move. Students from Earth—" He stopped talking. "What about Earth students, sir?" asked a small furry creature from the back. Veltar's crest, the colorful fan of skin on his head, flattened down. "We have never had human students before. Tomorrow, our first human pilot will take the test." The students began talking to each other in excited whispers. Humans were new to space travel. Most aliens thought they were not very special. They were not as strong as Centauri warriors. They were not as smart as Corvanian thinkers. They had no special powers like mind reading or seeing the future. "What do you think will happen?" a crystal student asked. Veltar thought for a long moment. "Humans are different. Their ships are simple. Their weapons are basic. But they have survived and grown in a dangerous galaxy. There must be something special about them that we do not understand yet." "Will the human get 3 tries like everyone else?" asked the blue-skinned student. "Of course," Veltar said firmly. "The rules are the same for everyone. 3 attempts. No exceptions. It has always been this way." But deep down Veltar felt something strange. In all his years of teaching, he had learned to trust his feelings about new students. Something told him that tomorrow would be different. Something told him that this human pilot might surprise everyone. "Class dismissed," he said. "Get good sleep tonight. Tomorrow you will watch history being made, one way or another." As the students left the room, Veltar stayed behind. He looked at the silent simulators and wondered what would happen when the human sat inside one of them. Would they fail quickly like most first-time students? Would they struggle and barely survive? Or would something else happen entirely? He had no way of knowing that in less than 24 hours, everything he believed about pilot testing would change forever. Jiho Kim walked into the simulator room early the next morning. He was not very tall, and his plain gray uniform made him look even smaller next to the other students. His black hair was cut short, and his dark eyes looked calm as he studied the big machines around him. Commander Veltar watched the young human carefully. Jiho did not seem nervous like most first-time students. He did not ask questions about the controls or beg for extra time to practice. He just stood quietly waiting for his turn. "Are you ready, Cadet Kim?" Veltar asked. Jiho nodded once. "Yes, sir." Dr. Kethmore, the head teacher for testing, moved her long thin arms over her control panel. She looked like a giant insect with her green shell and big round eyes. "Standard rules apply," she said in her clicking voice. "You have 3 hours to complete the course. Minimum score to pass is 750 points. "I understand," Jiho said simply. The other students crowded around the viewing windows to watch. Most of them were excited to see how badly the human would fail. Humans were famous for being average at everything. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. Jiho climbed into the simulator. The machine closed around him like a metal egg. Inside, screens showed a perfect copy of space with stars and planets that looked completely real. His hands found the flight controls easily as if he had used them many times before. "Begin simulation," Dr. Kethmore announced. The test started with the asteroid field. Huge chunks of rock spun slowly through space, each one big enough to crush a small ship. Most students flew carefully around them, following the safe paths that their teachers had shown them. Jiho did something different. Instead of going around the asteroids, he flew straight into the middle of them. His ship twisted and rolled between the spinning rocks like it was dancing. The watching students gasped as he passed so close to the asteroids that his ship's metal hull almost touched them. "What is he doing?" whispered a Centauri student. "He will be destroyed." But Jiho was not destroyed. His ship moved like it was alive, flowing around danger without ever slowing down. Where other pilots took 15 minutes to cross the asteroid field safely, Jiho was through in 6 minutes. Commander Veltar's crest rose high on his head. This was not normal. This was not how the test worked. The second part began immediately. 5 enemy ships appeared from behind a large asteroid just like they always did. They spread out in attack formation, ready to surround and destroy the student's ship. Every student learned the same response to this attack. Turn left, fire at the closest enemy, then retreat to long distance and fight carefully. It was the safe way, the smart way, the way that kept you alive. Jiho did not turn left. He did not retreat. Instead, he flew straight at all 5 enemy ships at once. The students watching thought he had gone crazy. No one could fight 5 ships alone and win. But as the enemies fired their weapons at him, something amazing happened. Jiho's ship spun and twisted so fast that all their shots missed. Then he led the 5 enemies straight back into the asteroid field. "Impossible," Dr. Kethmore clicked rapidly. Her big eyes were wide with shock. Jiho used the spinning asteroids as weapons. He flew so close to the rocks that when the enemy ships tried to follow him, they crashed into them instead. One by one, the enemy ships were destroyed by the very asteroids they were trying to avoid. In 12 minutes, all 5 enemies were gone. The usual time for this part of the test was 35 minutes, and most students lost at least half their ship's power in the fighting. Jiho's ship was perfect. Not a scratch on it. The final part of the test was the rescue mission. 3 Federation ships were trapped near an exploding space station. Students had to save the crews while dodging chunks of flying metal and avoiding the station's dangerous energy blasts. Most students could only save 1 ship before the station exploded. Saving 2 ships was considered excellent. No student had ever saved all 3. Jiho saved all 3 ships in 22 minutes. He did not follow any of the standard rescue plans. Instead, he seemed to know exactly where the chunks of metal would fly before they started moving. His ship was always in the right place at the right time, as if he could see the future. When the simulation ended, the room was completely silent. Dr. Kethmore stared at her screens with her mouth open. Commander Veltar's 6 arms hung motionless at his sides. The final score appeared in huge red numbers on the main display: 1,247 points. Perfect score was 1,000 points. Jiho had not just passed the test. He had broken it. "System error," Dr. Kethmore said quickly. "There must be a mistake. No one scores above 1,000 points. It is impossible." But when they checked the computers, everything was working perfectly. The score was real. Jiho climbed out of the simulator looking exactly the same as when he had entered. Not excited, not proud, not even tired. He looked like someone who had just completed a simple practice exercise. "How did you do that?" Commander Veltar asked, his voice full of amazement. Jiho shrugged his shoulders. I just flew the ship, he said. It seemed like the right thing to do. The other students stared at him like he was some kind of magic creature. In less than 97 minutes, this quiet human had done something that no one in the history of the Academy had ever accomplished. But the real shock was yet to come. Dr. Kethmore did not sleep for 3 days. She sat in her laboratory surrounded by computer screens, watching Jiho's flight over and over again. Every time she watched it, she became more confused and more worried. Play section 12 again, she told her assistant, a young Altarian named Zek. The screen showed Jiho's ship flying through the asteroid field for the 20th time that day. Dr. Kethmore watched every twist and turn, trying to understand how a human could move so perfectly between the dangerous rocks. There has to be a mistake, she said, clicking her mandibles together. The computer must have given him easier asteroids. Or maybe the enemy ships were slower. Something is wrong. But when Zek checked the computer records, everything was exactly the same as every other test. The asteroids moved at the same speed. The enemy ships had the same weapons and the same intelligence. Nothing had been changed. Doctor, Zek said carefully, what if there was no mistake? What if the human really did that well? Dr. Kethmore's big round eyes turned to stare at him. Impossible. The test has been the same for 200 years. We know exactly how long it takes to complete each section. We know what the highest possible score should be. No one can score 1,247 points. But he did, Zek said quietly. That afternoon, Dr. Kethmore called for help. She brought in the Academy's best computer experts and the smartest mathematicians from 3 different planets. They all gathered in the big conference room to study Jiho's flight. Commander Veltar was there too, along with 5 other senior teachers. They all watched the recording again, looking for any sign of cheating or computer problems. Stop there, said Dr. Vren, a computer expert with silver skin and 4 arms. Look at how he enters the asteroid field. Everyone watched as Jiho's ship dove straight into the spinning rocks. Dr. Vren pointed at the screen with 2 of his hands. See that pattern? The way he moves between asteroids 7, 12, and 21? He is following a path that should not exist. What do you mean? Asked Commander Veltar. Dr. Vren touched his control panel, and colored lines appeared on the screen showing the path Jiho had taken. The asteroids move in patterns that we programmed. We made sure there were only 3 safe paths through the field. But the human found a 4th path that we never knew was there. Dr. Kethmore leaned forward. Show us. For the next hour, Dr. Vren explained how Jiho had discovered a timing pattern in the asteroids that the programmers had never intended. If someone flew at exactly the right speed and entered the field at precisely the right moment, they could slip between the rocks much faster than anyone thought possible. But how did he know to do this? Asked another teacher. Did someone tell him the secret? That is impossible, said Commander Veltar. Humans have never seen our simulator before. This was the first human to ever take the test. They moved on to study the battle with the 5 enemy ships. What they found made everyone in the room very uncomfortable. The enemy ships have artificial intelligence, explained Dr. Kethmore. They are programmed to be smart and dangerous. They should work together to surround and destroy any student. But look what happened, said Dr. Vren, pointing at the screen. The human did something that confused their programming. When he flew straight at them instead of running away, their artificial brains did not know how to respond. The enemy ships had been programmed to fight students who followed normal battle tactics. They expected students to retreat, to fight carefully, to try to stay safe. When Jiho attacked all of them at once, their programming became confused. It is like the human knew exactly what would confuse them, said Commander Veltar. But that is impossible, Dr. Kethmore insisted. The enemy ship programming is our most advanced artificial intelligence. How could a human understand it better than we do? The investigation continued for days. They found 17 different places where Jiho had done something that should not have worked but did work perfectly. Each time, he had found a weakness or pattern in the simulator that even its creators did not know existed. We have a serious problem, Dr. Kethmore announced to the Academy leadership. Our test is not as perfect as we thought. This human has shown us flaws that we never knew were there. The Academy's director, an ancient being called Eldest Morgan, listened to the report with growing concern. Are you saying that our pilot test has been wrong for 200 years? Not wrong, Dr. Kethmore said carefully, but incomplete. We have been testing whether students can follow the rules and fly safely. The human showed us that sometimes the best way to win is to not follow the rules at all. Eldest Morgan's many eyes blinked slowly. This is very troubling. If one human can expose these problems, What does that say about all the pilots we have certified? Commander Veltar spoke up. We need to test more humans. We need to know if Jiho Kim was special or if all humans can do these things. How many more humans are available for testing? Asked eldest Morgan. 5 more human pilots are arriving next week, Veltar replied. They are part of the exchange program with Earth. Dr. Kethmore felt a chill run through her insect-like body. If all humans could do what Jiho had done, then everything they thought they knew about pilot training was wrong. Test them, ordered eldest Morgan. Test them all. We need to understand what we are dealing with. The next week brought 5 more human pilots to the academy. Dr. Kethmore and Commander Veltar watched them arrive with growing worry. Each human looked normal and unremarkable just like Jiho had. The first new pilot was Mira Park. She was shorter than Jiho with long black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. When she sat in the simulator she smiled like she was about to play a fun game. Begin simulation, Dr. Kethmore announced, her voice tight with nervousness. What happened next made everyone in the control room gasp. Mira did not fly through the asteroid field like Jiho had. Instead, she found holes in space that the computers said should not exist. She flew her ship through twists in spacetime that were supposed to be just background decorations. How is she doing that? Whispered Zek, staring at his instruments. Dr. Vren, the computer expert, was frantically checking his systems. She is using the space distortion effects as shortcuts. But those are not real flight paths. They are just visual effects to make the simulation look pretty. Mira treated the entire test like a 3-dimensional puzzle. Where other pilots saw obstacles, she saw pieces that could be moved and rearranged. In 89 minutes, she finished with a score of 1,195 points. 2 days later, Taeho Lee took the test. He was tall and quiet, with scars on his hands that showed he had been in real battles before. His approach was completely different from both Jiho and Mira. Taeho treated the simulation like a war. When the enemy ships appeared, he did not wait for them to attack. He destroyed them so fast that they never got a chance to fight back. When the rescue mission began, he cleared out all the dangers first, then saved the trapped crews in perfect safety. He is not just completing the test, Commander Veltar observed, watching Taeho's ship blast through obstacles. He is conquering it. Taeho's final score was 1,156 points, achieved in 94 minutes. Hanacho was next. She was small and moved very gracefully like a dancer. When she climbed into the simulator, her heart rate stayed perfectly calm according to the monitoring equipment. Hannah flew like she was performing a beautiful dance in space. Her ship moved in smooth, flowing motions that looked impossible but worked perfectly. She never seemed to hurry, never seemed worried, but somehow she was always exactly where she needed to be. Her biometric readings are amazing, reported the medical officer. Her stress levels never changed during the entire test. It was like she was meditating while flying through deadly obstacles. Hannah scored 1,203 points in 97 minutes. The fourth human pilot, Dongo Yun, treated the whole test like a game. He laughed and made jokes over the communication system while dodging asteroids and fighting enemy ships. He seemed to be having fun while doing things that should have terrified him. This is like the video games back home, he said cheerfully as 5 enemy ships attacked him at once. Except easier. Dongo found ways to make the enemy ships crash into each other. He used the rescue mission as practice for fancy flying tricks. His final score was 1,078 points. The last human pilot was Sujin Lim. She was very serious and studied everything carefully before she started. But once the test began, she moved faster than anyone had ever seen. Sujin somehow knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. She was already turning to avoid asteroids before they started moving toward her. She shot at enemy ships before they appeared on her screens. She reached the rescue ships before the explosions even started. How does she know what will happen next? Dr. Kethmore asked, her voice full of confusion. It is like she can see the future, whispered one of the watching students. Sujin's score was 1,189 points in only 83 minutes. When all 5 new human pilots had finished, Dr. Kethmore called another emergency meeting. The Academy's best minds gathered once again, but this time everyone looked frightened instead of just confused. 5 more humans, Dr. Kethmore announced. 5 more perfect scores. And each one did it in a completely different way. Commander Veltar stood up slowly. We need to face the truth. This is not about the humans being lucky or finding mistakes in our computers. This is about humans thinking in ways that we do not understand. Dr. Vren nodded sadly. I have studied their flight patterns for days. Other species follow decision trees. They see a problem, think of solutions, pick the best solution, then act. Humans seem to do all of these steps at the same time, in ways our computers cannot measure or predict. What does this mean for our pilot training? Asked eldest Morgan, who had been quietly listening to everything. Dr. Kethmore looked at her data screens, showing 6 human test results that broke every rule she had ever learned. It means that we have been testing the wrong things. We thought we were finding the best pilots, but we were only finding pilots who think like our computers think. And the humans? Asked Commander Veltar. The humans think like nothing else in the galaxy. 3 weeks after the last human pilot finished the test, eldest Morgan called the most important meeting in the Academy's history. Leaders from every major planet in the Federation gathered in the Great Council chamber. The room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, but they all shared the same worried expression. "We have a crisis," eldest Morgan announced, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. "Our pilot testing system has been completely compromised by human capabilities." Dr. Kethmore stood up to address the council. Her usually confident manner was gone, replaced by obvious nervousness. "In 3 weeks, 6 human pilots have taken our simulator test. All 6 achieved perfect scores on their first attempt. More importantly, each one revealed critical flaws in our assessment system that we never knew existed." A Centauri commander leaned forward in his chair. "Surely this is good news? We have found exceptionally skilled pilots." "No," Dr. Kethmore replied firmly. "That is exactly the problem. These humans are not just good pilots. They are exposing the fact that our definition of good pilot has been wrong for 200 years. She activated a holographic display showing the test results. Every other species in the Federation approaches piloting the same way. They follow logical patterns, use established tactics, and work within known parameters. Our test was designed to measure these predictable approaches. The display changed to show the human flight paths. Humans operate completely outside these parameters. They find solutions that our programmers never intended and exploit weaknesses that our best minds never discovered. They do not just pass the test, they fundamentally break it." Commander Veltar stood to support her statement. "After studying the human results, we tried to predict what a 7th human pilot might do. Our most advanced artificial intelligence systems could not create any useful models. Human decision-making appears to be completely unpredictable." A crystalline being from the outer system spoke up. "What exactly are you proposing we do about this?" Eldest Morgan's many eyes focused on the gathered leaders. "We are implementing Emergency Protocol 7.4, effective immediately. Human pilots will be limited to 1 attempt at the flight simulator." The room erupted in confused voices. Several delegates began speaking at once, demanding explanations. "1 attempt seems unfair," called out a Corvanian representative. "Every species gets 3 chances." "That is precisely the point," Dr. Kethmore explained. "Other species need 3 attempts because they improve predictably between tries. Humans achieve maximum performance on their first attempt through methods we cannot understand or replicate." She brought up another display showing improvement curves for different species. Centauri pilots improve an average of 18% between first and second attempts. Corvanians improve 22%. The pattern is consistent across all known species. The graph showed human results as a flat line at the top. Humans start at maximum performance and stay there. Additional attempts would serve no purpose except to further expose flaws in our testing system. Commander Veltar stepped forward. "We must also address the larger implications. If our pilot certification has been measuring conformity rather than excellence, what does this mean for fleet operations?" The silence in the room was heavy with implications. Thousands of certified pilots throughout the Federation had been selected based on their ability to follow predictable patterns, not their ability to adapt and improvise. Dr. Vren, the computer expert, provided additional disturbing news. "We have begun redesigning the simulator from the ground up. However, every time we create new challenges we must ask ourselves, what would a human do that we have not thought of? It is an impossible question to answer. The humans have taught us that creativity and adaptability cannot be properly measured by any test we know how to design," added Dr. Kethmore. "Our simulation rewards logical optimization. Human pilots operate on intuition and innovation that transcends logic." Eldest Morgan raised one of his ancient hands for silence. "The official announcement will state that the new rule is due to resource allocation concerns. The real reason will remain classified at the highest levels." A young Altarian delegate asked, "What happens to the 6 human pilots who have already passed?" They are being fast-tracked to advanced tactical operations, Commander Veltar replied. Their unconventional approaches are desperately needed for scenarios where traditional doctrine has proven insufficient. And what about future human applicants? They will take the test once, Dr. Kethmore said. They will almost certainly pass with scores that break our systems. Then they will be assigned to specialized units where their unique capabilities can be properly utilized. The meeting continued for several more hours, but the most important decisions had already been made. As the delegates filed out, many were already making plans to review their own species pilot training programs. Dr. Kethmore remained behind, staring at the empty holographic display. Commander Veltar approached her slowly. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked. She was quiet for a long moment. "The humans showed us that we had been asking the wrong questions for centuries. We thought we were finding the galaxy's best pilots, but we were only finding the most predictable ones. And now we must learn to ask better questions. The humans cannot be allowed to take multiple attempts not because they need them, but because our simulation cannot survive repeated encounters with human problem solving." 3 days later, the simulator bay was closed for complete reconstruction. Through the viewing windows, technicians could be seen installing entirely new systems designed not to test rule following but rule breaking. The official notice posted outside read simply, "Due to resource optimization, human cadets are limited to 1 simulator attempt." The truth was far more profound. Humanity had just taught the galaxy that its greatest strength lay not in following the expected path, but in finding the path that no one else had imagined possible.